Good evening. I'm Dr. Greenbrier Almond, and thank you for joining us on our program, Tender Loving Care. Each week, it's hard to believe now, but 35 years, going on 36 years this month, we have been coming to you weekly talking about areas of this interface between Christianity and medicine, and particularly the area of tender loving care. And I'm very excited tonight to welcome two guests, dear friends over the years, Roger McCormick. Roger, thank you for coming on.
It's my joy.
And Michaela Poling. Michaela, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And we, as you might expect, if we get two brains in the room here, I'm the man out here, but Roger and Michaela are very intellectual and always into research, always into asking the big questions. And so, welcome to the program.
Thank you,
sir.
Good to be here.
Roger, some folks will know you and some won't, but tell us just a little bit about who you are in the community, how they could have interacted with you, whether it was at the college or in the local church, or about you.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to do that.
Your daughter writing for the paper, all that stuff.
Sure. Well, we're glad to be here with you tonight to
Okay.
share this lady's experience in a rare kind of syndrome, which we'll discuss here shortly. But my background came here in 1977 as assistant professor of biology at West Virginia Wesleyan College, and moved on up through the ranks there, and kind of retired back in 2003, but wasn't ready to stop teaching by any means, so went out to the high school locally and taught general science and some chemistry and biology there at Buchanan Upshur High School. And in the meantime, active lay leader and speaker in our United Methodist Church. And so for about 12 years, went out into the community to Reed Chapel and to Mount Hope and Harmony and those areas, and did preaching on Sunday mornings. And lately, since retiring from the high school, been down at Lowe's in the electrical department as cashier, as a part-time employee there, which I thoroughly enjoy, meeting all the folks in the community. It's a great joy. So that's my background. But about 7 years ago, I was out at the high school then, and I went to the art show that was going on, and I saw these beautiful portraits and paintings, and I said, "Who did these?" And I guess her mother was nearby, and she says, "That's from my daughter, Michaela." So that was the first time I met Michaela as an artist. And then we got together and realized that she obviously has a syndrome. And I was very inquisitive about that and wanted to learn more. And so it's turned into a development of a nice, close relationship that we've got going now in our research areas of interest. And that's my background.
Very good. Now, and just to segue here a little bit, Michaela, your mother has been a teacher of the year lately,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
She's been recognized as one of the best of the best.
It was a great honor for her to have that recognition at the high school level, and to be nominated by her peers, and to be thought of in that way. I would say it was a very nice honor in college to have you as a professor.
Okay.
And learned a great deal, and found a lifelong interest now in dealing with PTSD,
Okay.
post-traumatic stress disorder, and that will be part of what we do in our research with the Freeman Sheldon Research Group.
Okay, let's say that a couple times, and because we also have a banner out there, and it says fsrgroup.org. And as you listen to what we're saying tonight, you want to know more, go to that site, open it up, and discover what's there. So the name of the syndrome and this group is, say it again.
Freeman, Freeman,
Okay.
Sheldon, Sheldon, syndrome is the name of the condition.
Okay.
We're a research group.
Now everything, I've been in medicine for a long time, and everything is always named not after the patient, but after the doctor.
Well, not everything.
Not everything,
Lou
okay.
Gehrig's disease, of course.
That's right. He's named after the baseball player,
Correct.
of course.
Right.
Correct.
and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Yes,
right.
amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Okay, so that's right. Sometimes it's someone else's syndrome who may be famous, made it famous. You're now, at the time we were together, you were interested, of course, in the biological sciences and a career in medicine.
Correct.
But medicine is also research, isn't it?
Correct. It's a different way to help patients and to help more patients than what you could ever help on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You interact with the patients that you're doing research with, but the information that you gain from having that interaction
Mm-hmm.
then is translated into information that can be used to help other patients when you go to publish that in a journal
Uh-huh.
or give a speech about it or
We have-
write a book.
Right, we have, and I think a good example, we were just talking before we went on the air, with Neil Armstrong's passing, we have a chance to say why research is important. Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon.
Yes.
And what, just for our benefit, what did we learn by putting a man on the moon? This was a research endeavor. It didn't really, wasn't geared to be a business or anything like that, or create a taxi to the moon or anything. But we learned a lot on the way, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, very
But-
much so. Think of all the side interests that have occurred, such as, remember the space sticks? I
Yeah.
used to love to eat those things. And
Right.
then the clothing.
Right. What was it?
and
What's the orange drink?
Tang.
Tang.
Yes.
Tang. Yes, I loved that when I was a kid. Now I'm back to orange juice, but I
Sure.
love Tang.
So many offshoots. So
Yeah.
we could list them forever here.
Teflon.
Because of that
Teflon.
research.
We had a
Teflon, too.
president, Reagan, who was called the Teflon president.
Yes.
But it was sort of a bow to the fact that Teflon was something they could discover, and it was a surface that was easily to wipe clean.
Very
Nothing
tough,
would stick
right.
to it, and probably a very important concept to develop if you're going to go through outer space.
That's right.
So research. There are a lot of things that spin off of research, and Michaela, then you are up on this syndrome that is now you're actually getting together with research professors in major universities,
Correct.
and we're going to be doing research in Buchanan.
Correct.
Wow.
We're going to be doing the research by and large in Buchanan. This group is headquartered right here.
Okay.
Dr. McCormick is the lead researcher.
Okay.
The lead researcher is not somewhere far away. He's
Mhm.
right here, and we're very proud of that fact.
Mhm.
To be energizing the local community in this way, both in terms of morale and feeling a part of what we're doing, which we hope everyone will. This is local people doing world-class research, and we're very proud of that.
And we can always do community-based research. Someone would say, "Well, how can that happen?" You know, but when I was at the VA, we had many patriotic soldiers who served their country from West Virginia, and so we realized as my career went forward that we don't know much about PTSD. So by the time we had the second most enrolled program in America, suddenly it was interesting to say, well, how do we treat that effectively? Yes. What medicines, what treatments work? And so out of that, we had a research interest. What is this Freeman? Tell me with the name again.
Freeman Sheldon Research Group.
Sheldon Research Group, and the Freedom Sheldon Syndrome.
Correct.
What is the syndrome about? And again, people will wonder, scratch their head, but they may have a relative that has it.
Correct. It's probably not as rare as what the reports say, and I would defer to Dr. McCormick for better explanation.
All right. I'll be glad to share it. When I first met Michaela, obviously, she's different than the average person that you would meet on the street.
Right.
And I said, "What is this?" Because I never saw it before in my life. And she explained, and her parents explained, this is Freeman-Sheldon syndrome. It's a genetic, I guess you would refer to it as an aberration, something that goes wrong somewhere in the genes.
Right. Now, and just to kibitz off this a bit, but
Yes.
It's only been 5 years or more since we've been able to map the genes.
Yes.
So you could identify something that's genetic, but now we can be very precise,
Yes.
can't we? And this is how science goes forward.
Yes. In fact, that the place where the cause that results in these physical abnormalities is mapped, and we know where it is. It's just a matter of, well, we know where it is. How is it causing the change? And it's obvious the major changes that you see, if you look at her hands and her feet are somewhat the same way. It's a musculoskeletal connective tissue abnormality.
Okay.
And during embryonic life, the muscles are being pulled a different direction, which causes the joints to change in shape. It causes the facial features to be very different. She has kind of what's called a whistle face, and meaning that everything's kind of drawn into an O here at the mouth. She can't lift her eyelids, can only see out of one eye on the right side, and her left eye barely is open. She had some surgery on that, but that's about it as far as her sight is concerned. And if
But
you
it
notice
doesn't affect the brain.
no,
No.
she has scoliosis and other symptoms,
Right.
but the brain, I've always been impressed with her brain.
I have been too. I'd say very brainy person.
Yes.
Michaela.
I still got an A-.
But in spite of these physical handicaps, she cannot walk. What you're seeing, if you can't see it here, but she has artificial, well, I guess you call them prosthesis, attached to legs that are non-functional. Her feet, if you could look at the feet, they're completely involuted so that the soles are facing upward. You can't walk on those.
Right.
So she has artificial feet, shoes there attached to that prosthesis.
So
to
as a
enable her to
doctor,
walk.
I mean, who sees patients every day, I can already see how studying this syndrome would help other patients. For example, we have many people who come back from war and they have prosthesis. They have deformities because a bomb has exploded.
Correct.
Well, how do we help them? You know,
Right.
and I saw in the Olympics this time a man, I think with some type of a titanium leg or something.
Oscar Pistorius.
Yes, and that was a marvelous thing, wasn't
He,
it?
he was a bilateral amputee. He was born with fibula, I'm sorry.
Tibia.
And he had amputations at age 11 months, and that's all he's known, and perhaps will be someday the fastest man in the world.
Right, and there were some 70,000 people cheering him
Yes.
on, you know, and when he ran, and so, but anyway, you translate what may be an obscure syndrome, and you start to look at the pieces of it and say, wait a minute, this could involve everyone.
Oh, yes, it could. Just like the space program, it could have ramifications.
Right.
Because we're dealing with muscle tissue that is obviously different in the way it contracts,
Right.
and we need to find out down at the molecular level eventually what's going on with the myosin and the actin and
Right.
the ATP reactions that are happening there.
Yeah.
Is the ATP even normal, the energy supply molecule? And what causes then the muscles to change shape and therefore pulls on the tendons, which pulls the muscles and causes scoliosis and causes abnormal joint
Right.
flexures? And
Or what if we were to travel to Mars? When I was in the 4th grade, I read Mrs. Pickles Goes to Mars.
yes,
A little book, but anyway, it inspired me to think about going to Mars. But one of the problems is what happens to your muscles while you're in outer space for so
yes,
long,
right?
and then how do you walk when you get back? I mean, this is a syndrome that could answer that problem.
Yes, it could. Yeah, very much so. And I know we are a Judeo-Christian based
Right.
foundation, and that's very important for
Okay,
us to
right.
know,
You're not
for
gonna-
our audience to know that.
You're not going to do anything that's unethical or
Absolutely not.
or-
We have an ethics committee and part
Okay.
of the syndrome group.
And it's the only federally registered and assured IRB, that is Institutional Review Board, in this region. There is not another one in this whole county.
Wow.
And I believe for several counties.
Okay, so I mean, not to put anything down about Wesleyan, but they're not going in that direction
No,
to do research.
they used to have one, and as far as I'm aware, they don't. currently.
but yours is registered, and you're tied in with key professors at Johns Hopkins University,
Correct.
which is perhaps the leading research and medical institution
Yes.
in the world, and George Washington
Correct.
University.
Correct. Working with a professor of psychiatry at George Washington, and had a wonderful conversation with him yesterday. He will be working directly with us on quality of life and post-traumatic stress disorder issues. And we're very happy to have Dr. Gerald Perman. And then at Johns Hopkins, working perhaps with the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation and to investigate possible research avenues with neuromuscular parts of the syndrome.
Okay.
So very interesting, very invigorating.
And this is and actually the exciting thing for me is that this is the type of economic development, an engine that I would like to see us happen to do here in West Virginia for a couple of reasons. One is we have the largest percentage of disabled citizens of any state. I think it's over
That's
20%. And we also have the oldest population, per capita. I mean, maybe over 40 years average, There's a lot of older people here. So anyway, healthcare research is what we do well here.
Yes.
I mean, just like if you go out to the Silicon Valley, they do research in computers well.
Yes.
But if we get a center of development here, the sky's the limit.
And that's what we really want to have happen here. We want to involve the local community and have them feel a part of this and to profit from it, both in terms of feeling proud that this kind of work is being done here, but we really want to encourage economic growth and development. You bring someone here one time for a business or medical reason, and they'll be doing some sightseeing and probably come back. And
Right.
So it's
Look what happened when the Boy Scouts moved to Fayette County
Oh,
with
boy,
the 10,000
yes.
acre. Everyone in the state, the governor included, said this is a game changer
Oh,
for the
sure
state
it
of
is.
West Virginia. Suddenly we have a national group focusing down on West Virginia and doing their camping here. So you could do basic research. A lot of this, is receiving information. It's computerized.
correct.
And tell us a little bit about how this will go forward. And then people want to
Okay.
know can they if they go onto this group, FSR group, can they ask a question and someone will respond to
Yes,
them?
there is a place on the website where you can click Contact Us, and that will bring up a form that you can fill out, and then you can get in touch with us.
This is just the beginning. People can hear this today and they can begin to process
Right,
this.
and then we'll try to get back to your questions and comments with
Okay, and
24
also
to
if you
48
have a
hours.
question about the syndrome itself, do you have links to other systems, other
Well,
literature?
The problem is there really isn't.
There isn't.
We are the only organization in the world for this condition.
Okay.
We have a support group and we have a research group.
So this is what
So-
in other areas of medicine they'll call orphan
Very much.
research. I mean,
Very
in other
much.
words, we know what an orphan is. It's a child without a
parents.
family,
Right.
without the parents. And so this is a syndrome that needs to be studied, but
Correct.
no one has taken the ball yet,
Correct.
except you all.
Correct.
Can I touch you?
Correct.
Can I touch you?
Yes.
Glad to be
You heard
part
it
of
first on this program.
Yes. There has been, I think, only maybe 3 studies, and no one else is currently working on it. We're the only ones who have research that is freely available. You can go on and find where we're doing the research at clinicaltrials.gov. And at clinicaltrials.gov, you can search and find the research that we're doing there and learn a little more about it. That's also on our website. But it's exciting to be blazing new trails like
Right.
this.
And who knows? I mean, you're listening to this, you've heard Roger's description of Michaela and the syndrome itself. I remember actually just at the yard sale this year, I was looking over what books we had to sell, and there was a medical text from the 1940s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I looked up autism, I looked up PTSD, I looked up schizophrenia, depression. Anyway, autism was a very, very rare disorder in the 1940s. And now you were telling me just as we went on the air, it's one
Yes.
in...
It's 1 in a million officially, but it's probably much less rare.
The spectrum disorder is 1 in 88 or something?
Yes, autism spectrum is 1 in 88.
Wow.
Freeman-Sullivan syndrome is said to be 1 in a million.
1 in a million?
And it's probably not that rare. There is some confliction about that. Some people think it's more rare.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's less rare.
But when you start to look for the parts of it, it's going to be something that everyone has because
Yes.
muscles are very, very important.
Absolutely.
Bones are very
Right.
important to all of us.
And also, I want to go back and talk what you were touching on, how we move forward. And,
Okay,
and
yes.
what our next steps are. In this technology age, we'll be seeing patients through a computer in some
Mhm.
cases.
Okay.
And a lot of education will happen that way. We're not just a research group, we're
Mhm.
an educational institution as well. And so that's an important part of our philosophy
Mhm.
and what we do. And also, we'll begin to recruit
Mhm.
new patients and
Right.
and also healthy people can be a part of this as well.
Okay. You need a controlled population,
Correct.
and people who
To
have
compare.
normal muscle groups, they
Right.
would be valuable
So
to
you can compare, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very, very critical, very important that you have a baseline of what is normal
Mm-hmm.
to compare with something that has
Now,
changed.
this, even though Michaela is saying this, and it's true, people will not understand this, but I'll give you a common example.
Okay.
As much as we know about science, we think 98.6 is a normal temperature,
Yes.
but it's really not.
No.
It was never established as to what is the normal temperature. And people would wonder about that. Or the aspirin. Everyone takes an aspirin if they get an ache or pain or something. We don't know how the aspirin works.
No.
I mean, so the basic research is fundamental. And and one other example, I always like to think of Tolstoy. I had to do a paper in high school on War and Peace, and at that time, when that was being written and Tolstoy was alive, as he would travel in Russia and he'd been to America, people would ask, "Tell us about Lincoln." And Lincoln, who was freeing people,
Yes.
talking about liberty, freeing the slaves, he was a phenomenon worldwide, and yet we didn't have the communication we have today. So this word will get around the world, as you say. It's going to be online. People are going to.
It is online.
You're going to take case histories from around the world and right back
Correct.
to
Right.
Buchanan, West Virginia.
Correct. And we were talking before we came on the air that when I was your student, we were there in person with patients. And now I'll be engaging in that sort of activity, learning from another doctor via a computer,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing.
Right. The Skype, I talk to my wife in the Philippines when she travels and I'm not there, or my children in Michigan or Washington, D.C. or Africa. We
Yeah.
talk on Skype.
Sure.
Just as
There you
good
are.
as talking face to face.
Yes.
So that's the technology is there to do this.
Correct.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Well, this is fascinating. We have a few more minutes, but we want to make sure we make the main points. We put up the website, right? FSRgroup.org. And people are free to contact that
Correct.
if they're inspired by what you're saying, and
Right.
Michaela and Roger both. And
Yes.
Yes.
And we also, of course, like any good research group, require some funds.
okay,
And if
right.
folks are somewhat interested in this
Yeah.
and want to support it, there's the website.
Uh-huh. We're
And
not promising anything, but
No.
but I remember reading this in the autobiography of Sam Walton.
Right.
When he first started that, which is now the largest corporation in the world. It's right after the Chinese Army, the U.S. military, and Walmart. But anyway, when he started, he did give some shares out to early people who worked with him.
Right.
And those shares are worth millions of
Oh,
dollars
sure.
now.
Yes.
But there's no promises.
No
Right.
promise.
And I would say that we are a 501c3
Okay.
nonprofit.
Nonprofit, okay.
and
So they can
that's
give a
correct.
donation and get a receipt for
Correct.
their tax purposes.
Correct. We
Yes.
have
Okay.
a method on our website where you can do that, where
Mhm.
you can also mail a payment of a donation to our
Uh-huh.
treasurer, and
Yeah.
that will be on there too.
And that's always a good idea. I remember a couple years ago when there was a group doing a substance abuse halfway house in Barber County, and they came over to the county and they sold us shares. And I think I bought a $100 share, And now, as that project goes forward, not that I'm going to ask for my money back, but that little share is probably worth $4,000.
Yes.
So I mean, people can get in on the ground floor. They can follow this closely.
Let me also interject that you may obviously notice a person
Right.
that's been afflicted with FSH, and FS, yeah, that's right.
Emphasis.
Yes, FSS. And you would think, well, if we are a Christian, Judeo-Christian organization,
Okay.
why in the world doesn't she get healed? Right, all we have to do is pray for her, and
Okay,
she should
right.
get healed.
Right.
And the age-old question goes on around the world when we have afflictions and injuries or abnormal things happening
Right.
to us, bad things happen to us. Why doesn't God heal us? Why doesn't He fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need to know that He wants to.
Right.
He absolutely wants Michaela to be made whole. He wants us to all be in good health and to prosper. It says it in His Word.
Right.
And so we cannot go around blaming God for something that has happened to her and to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know that He is always there, always will be, to the end of time, and causing us to do what we can to help Michaela, to help all those that are afflicted with Friedman-Sheldon
and
syndrome.
he sees the beginning of time. He sees the end of time.
That's
He
right.
actually knows about our life, and
That's
it's
true.
total. It's quite amazing when you start to put God in there.
It changes
and
your
He is
perspective.
at every cell, isn't He, in the body?
Yes, He is. That's
We
right.
mentioned that Jesus Christ is living in our heart. It's also our muscle, which the heart is a muscle, right?
That's right.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
everywhere in our body.
Yeah.
Our
Everywhere.
connective
Fascinating.
tissue, our ATP.
Right.
He is all of us.
So this is quite amazing. Well, I want to thank you very much, and I know that people may want to inquire, fsrgroup.org, and we'll have to, as this unfolds for our community, this could change the whole dynamic of our community. I mean, look at the Mayo Clinic up in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I mean,
small
what is
community.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
you know? But here's the world's leading center for medical care out in the heartland, and why not Buchanan, West Virginia?
Correct.
So until the next time, this is Dr. Greenbrier Almond thanking you for joining us on our program, Tender Loving Care. Special thanks for Channel 3 for the opportunity to come your way each week. And again, Michaela,
Thank you,
you.
sir.
And Roger, thank you.
Our joy.
And we'll see
Pleasure.
you all next week.